Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on effective websites. My name is Susan Chandler, and I am the new co-chair of SCORE on Cape Cod with Todd Richmond. I'm a volunteer mentor, and I just wanted to cover a few introductory items before turning things over to our facilitator today. And I want to shoot, how do I get this to change down?
Try the arrow key, maybe.
Go to the bottom of the slides.
Go to the bottom.
You should see an arrow at the bottom.
Okay, sorry, thank you. So you see, I'm a new ambassador. First of all, we would like to thank all the organizations that have provided us assistance in presenting this webinar. We are supported by the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce and the various chambers that are located on the Cape and the islands, as well as the Community Development Partnership located in Eastham. As always, we're grateful to these organizations for their ongoing support of our educational programs. For those of you who are not familiar with SCORE, we are a fully volunteer nonprofit organization and a resource partner with the U.S. Small Business Administration. The mission of SCORE is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. We have been doing this work since 1964 through educational opportunities like this webinar, as well as providing mentoring to people who are in business or are thinking about starting business. The Cape also has a very vital team of people who help out nonprofit organizations. We do a lot of strategic planning, board governance, fund development, and those kinds of things. We have the benefit of having more than 50 volunteer mentors and subject matter experts who serve in the chapter here on Cape Cod and on the islands, people who have a broad array of differing career experiences and expertise. So if you would like to avail yourself of these mentoring services, all of which come at no cost and are completely confidential, you can call our Cape SCORE office at 508-775-4884 or go online to seek an appointment on the website. The website listed here is www.capecodscore.score.org. We also have a new one, which is score.org/Cape Cod. The National is trying to put a similar website for all the chapters. I also know that many of you on the webinar are coming from other chapters in our district, a district that covers all of Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and maybe we even have some people further away, so welcome. The mentors and subject matter experts in each of those chapters are also ready to provide mentoring assistance to you as well. Their website access is listed here and will be posted later in the chat function. You see on the slide that there's a reference to Coastal Community Capital, a lending organization based here on the Cape that is licensed to do business throughout Massachusetts. We here at the Cape and Islands chapter of SCORE frequently work together with Coastal Capital and helping their clients to develop their business plans further and help our clients to better understand the scope of financing alternatives that may be available to them. We are working currently in a collaboration with the Coastal Community Capital organization to develop an immigrant business expo. It's going to be held in February. We don't have an actual date yet, but it had been the Brazilian expo a while ago, but now it's going to be focused on the new immigrants who are arriving on the Cape, and it will be physical, won't be online, but we'll get you information about that soon. Lastly, I would like to just go over the webinar procedures. All participants other than facilitator have been muted. We ask that you enter any questions or comments that you might have into the Q&A feature using the button that you should see at the bottom of the screen. Also, you can, please do not enter them into the chat. It's just easier for me to track all the comments in one feature. We'll answer as many questions as we can, and but be aware that the webinar is being recorded, and we'll send you a link and other materials if you've registered for today's session once the recording is available. And we'll launch a poll near the end of the webinar. We appreciate you responding to the poll before you leave. It helps us to make sure that our educational programming is meeting the needs of our small business community. And I also would like to thank Jim Danhauser, who's been putting on these workshops for many, many years, and he keeps threatening to retire, but we hope he won't. So I will turn things over to our facilitator, and let me do the stop share. There you are. Dale, take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna dive right into this here. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right, let's go into slideshow. Good morning, my name is Dale Shadbijan. I am a SCORE volunteer. I'm a subject matter expert. I'm not a full-blown mentor. That means I offer help with more targeted things, web design, digital marketing, SEO, social media, et cetera, et cetera. I have a business. It's Cape and Plymouth Business Media. I have, this is sort of a strategy session this morning. I'm going to try and keep it to about 40 minutes and leave time for questions. I've been building websites for a few years now, since the 90s. I've got a degree in information systems, so I'm kind of a nerd too that likes marketing. Worked in corporate America, and at some point in my life, I decided I just wanted to work with small to medium-sized businesses, help them with their online presence, grow, have a voice, so to speak. And I love what I do. I don't make these things up. I read a lot. I look at big companies. You see a few on the screen here. I always say these are guidelines, right? Every business is going to be a little bit different. And I'll show you some examples today of some people that do things a little differently and why, as well as we'll talk a lot about best practices. But, you have to think about your business. What some of these things may not make sense for you, some might. And again, our time's free. If you want to have a session afterwards, I'll be happy to do so. All right, so the title of the webinar this morning is effective websites, right? Getting what we want from our website. That's a very relative term, right? What does the word effective mean? It's successful in producing a desired or intended result. And if you put 20 people in a room, chances are you're going to have many different answers on what is the result that they would want from their website, right? So we're going to help you figure that out today and give you some steps to make sure you get there. The website, it needs to fulfill a specified function, though it may not formally acknowledge it, right? So, for example, you may have a nonprofit, and nonprofits need money to function, right? And the website's not going to come out and say, please give us as much money as you can right now. That would be a horrible message. But through the design and through the layout and through your goals, you can kind of send that message to your visitors, right? Websites can be your best or your worst salesperson. They are time consuming. So I think taking the time up front to think about your needs and what you want from your website is very important. And we need to put them to work for us. They're expensive and they take time. So, there's a lot to digest here. I kind of broke it down into 4 pillars and 3 phases, right? And there's, it's very typical that in a project, you'll have 3 phases, right? You're planning it, you're doing it, and then there's some kind of testing phase or getting feedback type thing, right? So we need to think about how to position ourselves. We're going to talk a lot about best practices, which is going to be boring, but we have to get through it. We're going to talk a little bit about creativity. Maybe you're not a designer, or maybe you lack some creative skills, or for example, I'm colorblind. I have some tools that I use to help me get through it. And then at the end, I call it the sanity check. So let's keep going here. So let's talk about positioning, right? we want to set some goals for the website so that when we get to the end, and even, days, weeks, months following, we can measure if we've reached those goals or not. And as I mentioned before, people have different goals for their site. So first thing you want to do is, and this is fairly obvious, right? What do you want the site to do? Do you want to sell things? Is it a way for you just to convey some kind of passion that you have? Do you want people to call you, email you? I mentioned before donations, right? Do you want to accept donations? Think about all those things, and then for each goal, what information will I need to support this, right? So you're gonna have to put a little bit of your sales and marketing hats on there. You want to think about who's coming to the site, right? Try and be really specific. In the past, I've helped clients think about avatars, right? So, Carl the commuter, Carl sits in the car for an hour driving to Boston, and they've got a corporate job doing XYZ, and when they come to my website, they're thinking about ABC, right? Or think about a problem you solve. So you could have all walks of life, but they have a similar problem. They're tired of XYZ, and you have the solution for them. You also want to think about, and I'll mention this later, the visitors to your site may or may not be the decision makers, right? You may have an older person running a company, or physically calling you, making the purchase, or doing whatever, doing this thing on the website that you need, you want this goal. But it may be a younger person in their office who's doing the research, right? It could be someone totally different in the company who's out there doing the research, but bringing it to someone else. So think about that might play into your audience. You have to think about what problem do you solve, right? This is fairly obvious, but if you're in a competitive space, think about the emotional side of what your business or your nonprofit or your organization is doing. What does it mean for their life, right? So let's just say, a client I have, they make wool bedding, right? Wool pillows. What does that mean? Well, you're going to have a better night's sleep. Well, what does a better night's sleep mean? Well, a better night's sleep means you're going to live longer, you're going to be happier, you're going to look younger, right? So think about those things, like it's not just the blanket, it's actually improving someone's life somehow. Maybe there's a story behind what you do. Maybe you have a hard time articulating it in words. I certainly do. Maybe you can tell your story better through video. So consider, I know video can be expensive. It can be as simple as you recording a Zoom, or hiring someone local to sit down with you and just ask you questions about what you do, and having them kind of edit it all together into, a 20, 30, 60-second little clip that you can explain to people about this thing that you're solving on their site. Really, really need to nail this part down. This is the foundation for everything. I'll stop anytime for questions too, so feel free just to jump in. If it's not appropriate, I'll bring it to the end, or we'll wait. Really want to impress upon you that we also need to think about typical digital consumer behavior, right? So think about the last time you were to make a purchase or do something. You had this, so I've got this wheel here, right? At the top, you have this want or need, right? You've got this idea, either you need something or you see something and you want it. You may buy it right away, but a lot of times you may go to a website and then think about it, and then go and do some research. 80% of consumers perform online research before buying a product or service. They might go back to your site, they may go to someone else's site. There's this process they go through. So as you're developing your content and this, your positioning, you have to think about not only who is this person, what's their life like, or what am I solving, but where are they in their buying process? Did they just get this idea? Are they just coming to my website for the first time? Or have they been thinking about this for a while and they're ready just to buy, or they're ready to come and visit me? They just want, they're coming here, they just need directions to get to me, right? Or they need to know where to park or how to get into my building, and they've already decided that I'm the one. So think about that journey that they're going through, and put yourself in their position in that buying phase as they're coming to your website. So once we kind of have our information, the information we're going to need, our goal is kind of laid out, we want to think about our website as, so I don't know if you won't see my phone here because I've got a green screen thing going on. You want to think that 50% or more will be on a mobile phone. So you want to plan your flow out so that it will look good on a desktop or a laptop, or it will look good on a tablet or a phone. And the way we do that is, this is kind of threw this out there as a sort of a best practice, right? You want to put your most important information at the top, and that will be different for every business. It could be a donate button. It could be, if you're a restaurant, it could be order online or menu. It could be directions. It could be where to park if it's an event. It could be, if you're looking for sponsors, it could be a sponsor link, right? So you want to think about, what are the most important things I need on my site? Start with those at the top and go to the least important as you move down the page. Most people will only navigate, 50% of people will navigate on average to about the third section on your website. And I actually install software on my sites. It will tell you to go from like red to blue. So red is 100% of people see this, and very, very, very small amount of people actually make it to the bottom of the page, less than 5%. So think about that flow. Also, we read left to right. So on a phone, if I look at this website on my phone, where it says tagline goes here, or tagline goes here, keep it short, I'm only going to see that on my phone. And then the picture on the right, it will stack, right? So if you put the picture first on the left, it may make more sense to you with the text on the right, but on a phone, you're going to see the picture, and then you'll be coming down to read the text. So depending on what your goal is here, you may want to flip those picture on the left or the text on the right, etc. There are some platforms that will let you change how it looks on a mobile phone, but you want to think about that flow. Lots of calls to action, right? I don't want to be obnoxious about it, but I think, having a section and then having a call to action that lets them act on that little piece of information is going to be huge. In your information, I don't have it shown here, but you want to think about what we call social proof. So social proof is a phenomenon where the people tend to follow the actions of the masses, right? And a great example of this is, you go to buy something, and I'll admit I like to shop local, but we all buy things from Amazon, right? Or if you haven't, great for you, good for you. And you go to Amazon and you've got a choice between two products, and one has 5,000 reviews at 4.5, and one has 5 reviews at 4.5. It's the same product, same price. Our brain will make a decision that the one with more reviews is better. Same thing in a small business. If there's a local service, someone has 40 reviews and there are 4.8, someone else has 3 reviews and there are 4.5. Our brain tends to make decisions about that. So having testimonials or having stats, a statistic is another great way for social proof. So let's say, so right now I'm at an infrared conference in Florida, and let's say I'm building a website for an infrared tester who goes and, he points his he or she points their camera at roofs and they look for leaks before, they're looking for things that could break before they actually break. And my statistic is, 89% of building administrators who employ predictive maintenance say, predictive maintenance on their building will save an average of $10,000 a year in repairs, right? So I know that was a mouthful, but you get the idea. You're giving someone sort of help in that there are other people who are using this type of service, and this is what they're gaining from it, right? So think about that, how you can use that for your business. That's going to be a huge thing for you. And in my layout here, I've got 3 sections. So I've got the logo at the top, and then I've got sort of a wide opener. It could be a photo or it could just be a color section. And we'll look at some examples of that. What is this product or service? Who's it good for? Like try and identify the type of person who might want the service. So, the service is perfect for busy dads who travel and give webinars, right? That would be me. And then show a picture, try to show something relevant to make this visitor feel good about what they're doing on your website. That might be hard for you to nail. Maybe you want to leave it a little bit more generic, or you want to give several examples, right? And then as you go down the page, I've got my 3rd section here. It's got the 3 smaller pictures. Maybe you talk about, the different types of services that you provide, or, and again, showing either pictures or icons, something relevant to the service, and then giving them a way to jump and learn more about that service. So I know that slide's kind of a mouthful, but that's an important one. Let's keep going here. All right, so we've got 2 things going on here. We want to think, we mentioned that we need to be thinking about what is the most important information. And again, it could be different based on their buying journey, right? It could be a phone and you want to make sure they can tap on it if they're a mobile. You want to be able to tap on the phone number and initiate a call from your phone. Maybe it's directions. Maybe it's a complicated service and you need a live chat or a way to book out an appointment or something with you, right? Look at the devices on the right here. So I would encourage you, and there's some tools that I can show you. This is what you're dealing with, right? So you're going to have people all over the map on different devices. You want to make sure that information is easily accessible. You don't have objects colliding into each other, right? So if you've got an Android phone, find someone that has an iPhone and say, hey, can you load my site? How does it look? Get some feedback. And as we're designing this, you really want to think about mobile first, right? So if we design for the phone and then it also looks good on the bigger devices, you're going to be covered that way much better than if you go, I've had, we go down this path of this kind of intricate design and then you get it to a phone and it's like so small, you can't read it. It's hard to use. Just consider that in this whole process.
Hey, Dale, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have an excellent question.
Okay.
It says, if you're just starting out with no data to show for your performance, what can you do to prove your social proof?
So, I tried to give an example of that where, let's say, okay, let's go back to the wool company, right? I do work this company in Brewster, Sonoma Wool, amazing company, amazing products. Their whole thing is, you're going to have a better night's sleep, right? So I would do some research on what are the benefits of this product, right? Maybe it's breathable, it's organic, it's, hypoallergenic, et cetera, et cetera. And then I would look, okay, look at lifestyles of people who get 8 hours of sleep, right? What are the benefits of getting 8 hours of sleep? And then you can give some statistics. People who get a good night's sleep live an average of 2 years longer or something like that. You have to try and be, you started this business or this nonprofit for a reason, to solve some kind of problem. think about that problem and what the meaning will be for someone once they use that product or service, right? That's what we have to do when we have a business that's just starting out. You want to help people identify with the solution, or the there's an emotional benefit that they're hopefully going to receive as a result of your product. That's what you would want to focus on. Once you do, so if I didn't answer that, feel free to elaborate. If you have a specific business you want to put in there, I can help brainstorm what that could be. Once you do get going, you do want to demonstrate some type of market leadership. That could be, maybe you were the first to the market, or you've invented something, you've improved the service in some way. It could be a testimonial. Be authentic, right? Especially for testimonials, don't make them up. I know it can be tough to get reviews or testimonials, but think about making them relevant to what you're doing. Don't put something on the website that's not really related to the products and services that you're offering. That just will confuse people. You want to think about being uncluttered. So being really succinct in your messaging, not putting in too many photos, not having when you come to the site, it's like just a barrage of stuff. And we'll see this, we'll go through some live sites. We want to really bring in like one idea at a time on a website. You don't want to have multiple sections and multiple photos, and like you want to, as you're scrolling through the site, you want it to be nice and clean, and we'll look at some examples of that. If we've got WordPress folks in the house, you have to pick a theme that a lot of other people are using. I mean, like thousands. I use a theme called Impreza, but there's Avada, there's a bunch out there. Divi is one. Use a big company. Don't you try to stay away from the free themes, free plugins. And if you're not using WordPress, that won't make any sense. But if you are, make sure that you could take your website somewhere else and it's a supported platform, right? I'm only putting this in here because I have so many people come to me. They build a website on a platform and then the platform's out of existence, and I have to share the bad news that this company is no longer around. You have to start over, right? You also want to make sure you keep your licenses up to date and you have some kind of security running that's checking them. If you're using like a Shopify, Squarespace, Wix, they will do all that for you. Sorry, that was sort of a curveball in there. You want to think about consistent fonts, right? So I know I've got a lot of text on this presentation. This is a very content heavy presentation, but all of my headings at the top are in a blue bar with a white font. It's the same size, same font, same thickness, every slide. And then I've got blue headings, and then, very consistent. Your eye, that what this does is allows the visitor to scan down the page and look for relevant sections. You may have a very content heavy website. So think about how you can space it out. Think about how you can let the brain scan it, have some consistency down the page. Professional, right? We have to have, this thing has to be professional looking. When we're asking someone for money, we're held to a different standard, right? You want to be consistent about your design, the colors you use, get high quality photos. I'm not a huge proponent of stock photos, but there are, if you can't afford to have a photo session, which I would recommend you figure out somehow, you want to make sure you go to someone like Adobe or Pexels or Unsplash is one. Make sure you get really high quality, copyright free photos. You can't just go to Google Images and start searching for images and pull them down. That's going to get you into some legal issues. So make sure you're getting copyright free, high quality photos.
I have a couple of questions, Dale. Want to take?
Sure.
One is, does GoDaddy provide a good free-ish website?
I'm not a huge fan of GoDaddy. I think they're a great company for a lot of things. I'm just not a huge fan of the website builder. They're probably going to phase it out at some point. The thing about GoDaddy is, if you're going to host your WordPress site there, I think you'll be okay. You got to make sure though that you buy their security package, and by the time you get the things that they recommend, there are some other hosts you could be at, and I'm happy to help figure out what you're doing and give you a recommendation offline.
Okay, there are a couple more. How
Sure.
are websites built with Google performing compared to other big names like WordPress, Squarespace, and others?
What was the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
How are websites built with Google performing compared to others like WordPress, Squarespace?
Yeah.
or others?
So Google has its own website builder. It's pretty good. I mean, it's enough to get something out the door. Same thing with I would absolutely go with Shopify if you're selling something. And there's some pros and cons to that. That's a whole different, creating an e-commerce site is like a whole different hour of information. Squarespace is great. Wix is great, but you're gonna be very limited. I can show you some different examples of what you get with a Google site or Squarespace. I'm sorry, Square site versus like a WordPress site. WordPress, if you have something more custom, more beautiful, you really want a top-notch site. WordPress, in my opinion, is the best way to go. It's the #1 platform in the world. It's used by more companies than any other platform. But with WordPress, you have higher maintenance costs. You have to make sure you have someone to keep an eye on it. You're thinking about security. As updates come out, you need to test it. It's a much more, it's like a luxury sports car versus, a Toyota Camry. So I hope that helps. And again, if you have a site and you want to know, am I on the right platform, or I'm about to build a website, is this the right platform? I'm happy to help take that offline. Other questions? Susan?
No, go ahead.
So accessibility, this is a big one, right? I mentioned before that I'm colorblind, so I think I'm red, green, protonic. I always forget which one I am. But sometimes I can't see certain fonts on certain backgrounds, right? Like I just can't see it, or it's very hard for me to see. You've got that going on. As I get older, my eyesight fails a little bit every year. And so think about the size of your fonts. We also need to think about people who they may have audio or visual issues. Maybe they're blind, or they maybe just the sound's off, right? We need to think about all of these things, and there's a tool here I put, this WebAIM. You can run your site through this, and it will tell you if fonts are too small, or text is too close to an image, or the font isn't dark enough against the background or something like that. Legally, we are supposed to do this. There's a standard. This is a whole separate topic. We cannot discriminate against people who are blind, for example, right? Or people with disabilities. We're legally responsible as we build a website, just like if you had a business, putting in a wheelchair ramp or putting in a handicap accessible bathroom. We're expected to do these things as business owners, and give everyone an equal opportunity to take advantage of what our websites are offering, right? There are, however, some disclaimers you can put on the site. Basically, hey, we did the best we could. Here's what we did to make the site accessible. If you have a problem, here's who you can contact, and we'll make sure you get whatever you need. If you have questions about that, again, that's a whole separate topic. we can take that offline as well.
Okay, Dale, they are asking how to contact you. What's your best contact information?
So, I mean, if you want to connect professionally, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can my business is Cape Plymouth Business. You can send me a message through there. If you want to set up a mentor, if you want a session where I can help you, you would go through Susan, and Susan at the end, if you want to distribute the slides to anybody that has my email in it, and if you want to connect, professionally or whatever, that would be the best way to do it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope, go ahead.
All right. I'm so sorry. I know this is so much information. I just want to remind everyone at this point, you can have the slides. I want to just kind of open your eyes to some new concepts. You can go back through here as you're building your site and kind of use this as a checklist, right? Fast loading, right? I mean, who wants to wait? Google will tell you 2 seconds is a long time. It'll start complaining that 2 seconds is a long time for your site to load. Personally, I find like after 4 seconds, it just starts to be like, and I know this sounds so silly, but this is what we're dealing with. You might be on a fast connection and see a site load in 4 seconds. I might be in a hotel lobby or on my phone or sitting waiting to pick my kids up in front of their school, and I don't have a great connection. That 4-second website, that might take 10, 15 seconds to load, right? So you can use this tool, gtmetrics.com, and you can put your website in there. It will tell you like, okay, hey, you've got like a 14 megapixel, photo here that you took on your, fancy iPhone, but it's you on the page, it only needs to be like 1 megapixel. So you're chewing up all this download time for people, and it will actually tell you, and it'll actually give you a more compressed version of that image. It will also tell you if your site's slow or the web host is slow. It's a really cool tool. I would recommend you do that after you get your site built. Obviously, your site has to be secure. I had a client call me yesterday morning. I'm in Florida and I'm working while I'm here, but I got a call. Someone, not an existing client, a new phone call. They were on a web host, I won't say the name, and their SSL certificate, and that's that little green padlock up in the top, something broke. And when you go to the site, there's a big warning. Google Chrome gives you a big warning that says, hey, the site isn't secure. Your information is exposed. Well, that scares the heck out of people, right? So if you don't have that padlock up in the where your URL is, make sure you have that. And there's some free scanners out there. Gravity Scan is one. You just put in your URL. It will tell you if you have that or not, if you don't know what it is. Really important, once your site is built, you want to know how people are using it, right? So Google Analytics is a great tool. It can be really hard to there's so much information. If you want, I can help you look at it and give you a few things. But basically, you want to know what pages are people going to, how much time do they spend on that page, and spoiler alert, if they're on your page 2 minutes, that's a long time, right? How many people have come back to the site? How did they get here, right? Did they come from Facebook or this other site or a Google search or maybe my newsletter? It'll give you all those things. And another cool thing, which I really like, how are we doing on time here? What time is it? All right, we're doing good for time. I love this tool here. Sorry, there's so many Zoom controls in the way. Here's a website. It's Emily's Interiors, or interior design cabinet design company in Shrewsbury. We built their new website, and then I used this software called Lucky Orange, and it will show me these red spots are where people are clicking on the site. So Google Analytics will tell me how many people went to the About page. but this tool will tell me where was it on my page that they actually clicked. So I can come down here and so this is interesting, right? People advance through the photos, but they don't go back. Kind of probably figured that. No one's clicking this contact us button. You know, maybe that means something, maybe it doesn't, right? Maybe if I think this is really important and people are they're gonna want to contact me after they see this and they're not, that tells me something. That tells me I missed the mark, maybe on the photo, maybe the content is irrelevant. I want to think about that, right? So this is a great tool. This tool will also tell me how far down the page someone scrolls. I can actually watch a recording of someone. So someone came from Needham, Mass, and I can actually watch their session. You see the cursor moving. This is the actual person, how they use the website. This is hugely important. Really helps us understand how the site's being used, what information is being ignored, etc.
They want to know the name of the site that you're talking about?
It's called Lucky Orange. It's kind of creepy, I'll be honest with you. But for someone like me, this is a really nice tool. And you know, in the end, I wanna, and you're going to want to too. You're going to want to create a great experience for your visitors. So having this tool just will put you above in terms of understanding who's coming to the site. It'll give you some basic information too, like was it their first time to the site? Did they come back? So right now they're looking at, you know, my FAQ. They're looking at the reviews right now, and then oh, that's interesting. They didn't spend too much time there, but you get the idea. Let's go back. SEO, right? So I always get these questions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Does it track the originating IP where the user is coming from, and does it violate any privacy laws?
You have to put a disclaimer on your website that you are saving the IP, but it's no different than Google Analytics. In fact, Google Analytics is going to be way more invasive because Google knows everything about us. If you haven't said something around your phone and then saw an ad for it in the next few days, you would be very rare at this point. I don't know how they do it, but they know. So there are some great privacy policy generators out there. I think Lucky Orange will give you one also, but it's not capturing. It's capturing an IP address and the type of device and have you been there or not, but it doesn't know your address. It doesn't know who you are. It doesn't hold any other personally sensitive information. And in fact, once you kind of go out on the internet, you're sort of in a public domain anyways. It's like walking down the street, someone can take a picture of you and they own that picture. Unfortunately, that's, you know, the kind of world we live in today. But again, as I mentioned, you do have to put the privacy policy in there. I already talked about ADA, but I mentioned it again here. So the next question is, people want to know, like, okay, I built this website. How do I get people there? That's going to be out of scope for this. We do have a Google My Business webinar coming up in February, which will kind of touch on this. But I've got, there's tons of free resources out there. You want to look for, it's called SEO. You can run content audits, technical audits on your website. You can set up the Google Search Console. The Google Search Console will send you notifications to your website for improvements. It's important to point out, you're not going to automatically rank in Google just because you built a website. There's much more to that. And as I said, we can cover that another time. I'll go back in the slideshow here. So we just spent so much time on creativity. Now we want to have a little bit of fun, right? Think about meaningful photography, right? So I also own a bakery in Cape Cod. We have 2 locations. It's great to show a picture of a muffin. We make huge muffins. They're covered in blueberries. They look delicious, right? But how about a picture of a kid with a huge smile on their face eating the muffin? or a family at a table and the muffin's cut in half and you can see it's loaded with blueberries, right? That's a really great way to show that product other than just a muffin sitting on a plate, right? So think about, how can I use meaningful photography to convey an emotion, to convey a solution I'm providing? If you can, as I mentioned, there's some free sites out there that you can go to and get, try and find something that will match what you're trying to do. I mentioned video is huge, especially the younger you get, the more statistically, the more video is going to be a huge part of that person's research. So I've got teenagers. I thought I was lazy when I Google answers and then I read I just want the answer. They'll YouTube answers, like they want to hear the answer and watch someone explain it, right? That's the world that we live in. You want to think about negative space, and I'll show you some examples of that. You want to have space between objects. You don't want to have too much going on. And I'll show you an example of that. Color palettes are huge, right? So how can I have something like, look at the palette on this page. It totally changes the whole vibe of the page, just splashing some color in there. So you can have something really sort of formal and content heavy, but maybe you throw in like a fun background, or maybe you change like one paragraph heading, you change to like a bright green, or you just throw off, like add in one little color here and there, or make the buttons fun, right? And again, I mentioned I'm colorblind. I have a hard time picking different colors. If you go to this colorhexa.com, you can pick a color and it will give you all kinds of different palettes that you can use in your sites to kind of help bring that creativity out. All right. We can also use typography to break what I said before about being consistent. So it can be used sparingly to have fun, or to place emphasis, right? And I've got this thing here, less is more. So I just kind of just threw that out there. I had, you know, it's not a photo, it's not an icon, it just sort of like hits you in the face. All right, so we've gone through the 3 pillars, and now hopefully you've made your goals. You did all the boring best practice stuff. You had a little bit of fun. You threw in some fun photos. You splashed some color in there. At a certain point, some people will drive themselves crazy perfecting their website. You got to stop at some point and say, I have to just let this go. I get there sometimes. You may or may not get there, but if you find yourself like, oh my gosh, just not getting it right, you may need to take a step back and say, did I meet my original goals? Have I done the best practices? Have I thought about where people are in their buying process, right? Have I checked my grammar and my spelling? And Jim, we always have a joke that I always leave one typo in my presentations for him to find. And I haven't heard anything yet on this one, so maybe I got it this time. But grammar and spelling is huge, right? Have someone look over your website and then let it go. Do not drive yourself mad creating the perfect website. Do talk to your customers. Do get buy-in early from people who have an investment in your website. But at a certain point, you got to think about letting it go. So that's it. I can look at some websites that you have, or I can show you, I'll show you a couple examples of some best practices and creativity. But if there are questions, I'll stop and answer them now also. So until the questions roll in, I'll show you a few sites. This is a friend of mine. He has a fishing charter business in North Carolina. Let's get you onto some fish, right? If you're in the fishing world, you know what that means. If you're not a fishing person, right, that might not make any sense to you. But in this scenario, the visitor knows what that means, and that's really important to them. They want to get on some fish, right? What do people want to do here? They probably want to know what kind of a boat he has, where he goes. They want to contact him, or they want to book something, right? Pretty straightforward. So this is an example of a fun background, right? It's a boat. Look at how beautiful blue the water is. you can almost imagine like the person's kind of sitting back, you know, on this fishing trip, enjoying their day or whatever. What else is important, right? Out on the water. Well, guess what? Catching fish is important, right? Who am I going with? What's the safety like? Look at how happy Captain Matt is, right? He's going to get you on some fish. You're going to have a wonderful day. Look at the sky. The water's blue. This is hitting a lot of emotional levels. It's also not too much. You'll notice, I may actually recommend more. See this white space here between the picture? This is what we call negative space. I may even actually add a little bit more here, because when I'm scrolling, I want the visitor to just worry about this one thing, right? I don't want to have too much going on. And then same thing, we've got photos here. These are actually all cell phone photos, but they're consistent. I try to recommend for him, you know, don't put pictures up when it's raining or a cloudy day. Try to show your best photos, right? They're all pretty consistent. This one's a little different, but the water's blue in all of them. They look fairly consistent. And again, you know, this is a fun background. It doesn't quite interfere with the questions, but it just gives the page a little bit more of a pop. And then same thing, we've got put in some testimonials here.
Okay, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
May I ask how important the domain registrar and the website host we choose are when we're at the very start? I was planning on using Green Geeks for registrar and Hostinger for website host, but not sure if those are good. Any
Yeah,
input would
so
be appreciated.
great question. So I use a company called Namecheap. I use GoDaddy also, but Namecheap is a little bit less money and they give you the privacy. Why the privacy on your domain is important, no matter where so you can get your domain from anywhere, and there's a caveat to that, but one thing you want to be careful of is when you register your domain, it's public information. You have to put in an email, you have to put in your phone number. You expose yourself to scammers. I get a lot of clients, they register their domain, and then they'll get something in the mail saying, hey, you need to renew your domain or you're going to lose it. It'll be from a totally different company, right? It's not even from their registrar. Most companies charge for that privacy. Namecheap gives it to you for free, but you really want to think about that. The other thing is companies like Wix or Shopify, you can register your domain with them, but if you want to move to WordPress, getting your domain off of what they have can be trouble. So like Wix, you can register your domain and you can get Gmail through them. But if you want to move to WordPress, it's a nightmare getting it moved off. So you want to think about registering your domain at an independent registrar, like I don't know, the Geeks is probably that. And then your web host is going to be hugely important. Hostinger is actually a good host. We have a server there. We have probably 5 different accounts, but I've had great success with them. And I don't want to name names who's good and who's not good, but if you want to send me a message, I'll give you my sort of unofficial opinion. But having the right host is hugely important. The security of your website is so important. I cannot impress upon you how many phone calls I get from people, their accounts got hacked, the website got hacked. They were on a web host that had email running, even though they weren't using it, and the website's sending out spam messages. You got to really keep an eye on that. And a lot of these website hosts, they expect you, if you look at the fine print, you're in charge of keeping the website secure, which is ridiculous, right? How is the average person going to do this? So think about that host, and there are good ones and there are bad ones.
How often should you update or refresh the website?
That's a great question. The answer is you want to update it as much as your business changes. So I have Matt here, Captain Matt, his business maybe won't change that much, right? If he's going to have the same boat and he's going to the same places, maybe he wants to add newer pictures. But once, for him, once he kind of gets this sort of the way he wants, they're not introducing new fish, right? If he's got a big change in his business, like a new boat or something, you definitely want to update your website. If you're you want to scroll through it and say, are these pictures still relevant? Don't feel the need to go in there and just redo things because you need to. I recommend every year, like in January when it's slow, go through your website, read everything. Is the website looking tired to you? Maybe this blue at the top here, maybe I'm going to change it to black and maybe just want to see if it gives a different vibe, right? But don't feel the need to have to go in and update it. Questions? Question?
You want to show some more examples or?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see here. Okay, so this is Emily's Interiors. This is the cabinet company. Sorry, there's so many zoom controls in the way. There may be a little bit too much going on here, but this company, they do 3D design, they do kitchen cabinetry. This right photo here is a rendering. So I've got some things in here for SEO, right? So that we're getting leads from Google. But successful remodel starts with great design, free consultation. And then we want to tell people right away, here's a few things that we're doing, right? We've got a video here. This is a very unique company because they're trying to do things a little bit differently. They would consider differently. It's very hard to express it. So we actually had a video made.
Emily's Interiors was
Kind of, I won't play it, but it gives you the history of the company, why they did what they did. And in 60 seconds, you can learn so much about why you would want to go to this company. You see the designers, you see them designing things, you get a feel for like their personality. This is a really big emotional purchase, and showing someone a video of what their process is like is kind of a big deal for them. But again, lots of negative space here. I want to help the visitor take in, one section of content at a time. They're the designer and supplier. People want to know who they're going to be working with. And also they do a lot with builders and other designers. So that was a really important thing to put here. And then again, you can go and learn a little bit more about each of the sections. Right. And I'll show you one more.
Yeah, I got a quick question.
All right, let's hear it.
Are there any differences if you're starting out as a nonprofit? Should your website be different? And also, I have lots and lots of questions about how to get in touch with you. So
Okay.
I want to give that again, but I thought the nonprofit question was interesting. We only have about 2 minutes to go.
Sure. So, nonprofit's going to have the same, they have to go through the same process, right? Why are they here? Well, so, here's one. We Can has a great website. We Can Center and Cape Cod. There's many amazing nonprofits, but for some reason I just thought of this one. You have to think about who's coming here, right? So when you have a nonprofit, you need to really think about, there are two types of people coming. There are people who want to help, right? Donate, volunteer, do something. There are people who need help, right? So how can I, if I'm a recipient of the here's another one, Family Table Collaborative. If I'm a recipient of this help, can I quickly navigate to what I need to get that help, right? And if I've donated money in the past, maybe I've been a donor for a long time, where can I go to find the impact that the organization is making? How was my money spent? What did they do with that money? So this is a Family Table Collaborative, great organization in Yarmouth. They feed people, right? here's pictures of the food, you know, what are they doing? What did they do with this money? How many people are they helping, right? How can you get involved? Just hitting them right up front. So again, this is all about aligning your mission, who's coming to the site, and how do you get those people to the answer they're looking for as fast as possible, and visually, aesthetically pleasing as possible. And then again, we can, if you want to set up a mentoring session, you can contact Susan directly, or she can send you the slides, and I think it has my email in there at the beginning.
Yeah, we'll go through SCORE.
Yeah, I've got, so if you want to connect on a professional level, that's how you would do that. So I always say thank you and apologize. I know this is a ton of information. We didn't get much into the actual platforms. But if you want to spend some time looking, so I'll go real quick. We're a minute over, so if you want to bail, you can bail, but.
And we are going to send all the slides with all this information.
Right. Yes. Yep. So if I just pick marketing, right? I'll actually. Want to show you just real quick. So again, if you look at a Wix site, you're going to kind of get what you get. You know, to me, this does the job, right? But it's not, to me, it's just not as impactful, balanced, put together as like, this is a WordPress site. I can make this look any way I want. To me, this is just, you have more control over it. Wix is, you're going to replace this picture. You're going to change this text. There's not a heck of a lot going on here, creative wise. Same thing, I'll view another one. It gets the job done, right? This is nice. I mean, if I had a restaurant, this would be nice. You get what you get. So with that, I'm done. I'll stay as long as you would like, or we can end, Susan.
Well, that's up to you, but I want to thank you very much. There's lots of great thank you notes and appreciation for all the information. And some people are just starting out and some are quite experienced, but it seems to have been very helpful. So thank you, Dale.
Yep. Parting words, don't get discouraged. Building websites, putting this together, you know, getting something effective is not easy. Sit back and enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the journey. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Those are your last comments, I guess, huh? Whoops.
Yes.
All right. So thank you very much. And I guess we sign off, huh?
That's it. Thank
Okay.
you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.